I got the best slot of the day, the last session. So while we get my presentation up, how about we just stand up and maybe move your body a little bit? This is the emotional intelligence part. Go ahead and stand up. Just, stand up, shake your body a little bit. You've been sitting for a long time. I'm gonna buy some time as the presentation. Just go ahead and give yourself a little shake. Look at the person next to you, say, good afternoon, how are you? Let's get some human interaction going on here. Very good. All right, I think we should be ready to go. Thank you, you can sit down. I'll just go ahead and start with my introduction. It's great to be back here in India. I lived here about 20 years ago. I lived in Hyderabad, India, and I worked for a company called Satyam. And some of my colleagues are here, very happy to see them. Tomorrow morning, there'll be a session by two of my colleagues, Devi and Ed Cohen, and they'll be talking about the book that they just released, which you can purchase outside, which is Worlds Apart. So right now, I do a lot of different things. I run my own consulting firm. I'm a fractional COO for a nonprofit in the US. I teach a course on emotional intelligence in Denver, Colorado, where I live. And I've had the privilege of working with a multitude of different corporations. I spent 20 years internally with big companies like HSBC and Western Union and was a head of talent. And in the white there, on this picture right there, that's me about 20 years ago. I had a little baby face, and now I've got gray beard. But that was then, and it was a great time. So today, I want to talk to you about AI and what's happening specifically to leaders. So the context today is about people in management positions. And the truth is, the speed of change will never be as slow as it is today. Everything is changing so fast, but leaders are still using the same playbook. And that is the fundamental issue. They're trying to show up and deliver in ways that just aren't working anymore because the context has shifted. So what we know is that when we do something well and we get rewarded, we continue to do it. Now leaders are being asked to change, to fundamentally change the way they think, they behave, and they show up. And so if we just look at moving quickly, we'll lose the humanity behind what we do. If we just move without getting that meaning and that purpose, people won't follow us. And so leaders are critical. We heard Denise speak about it. We heard Lance speak about it. I'm really happy that people are talking about leadership and the role that we play, because with all this great AI, without leadership, a lot of it will fail. I like to think about change management and all the changes failed in systems implementations throughout our careers. And why did they generally change? Or why did they generally fail? It was because people weren't aligned. People weren't engaged. They didn't understand the vision and the purpose. And so now we're asking leaders these three key questions. Number one, what does effective leadership look like now? It's very different, and we all need to think about that. Number two, what are the areas of competence and capacity that we need to build and strengthen? And then what do we need to let go of? What are the things that we need to let go of? Maybe it's being right. Maybe it's feeling like you're the authority. Maybe it's your healthy or unhealthy ego, which we'll talk about. But we need to start asking these questions about ourselves and how do we evolve and change for the new paradigm. So what we're talking about here are three key things for all leaders as we move forward into this new age, which is rapidly progressing. So one is the IQ. And this is where leaders used to shine. This is where leaders got to build their brand because they were smarter, they were able to think faster, they had more information, maybe they dominated meetings with their IQ. But IQ, we know, is being replaced in terms of its value because AI can do a lot of that. So now we're talking more and more about emotional intelligence, right? And how do we build trust? How do we empathize? How do we build relationships that matter? So this EQ factor is coming front and center and is going to be a major differentiator for us. So we'll talk more about that. And then the last one is adaptability. How agile are people? How comfortable are people with change? How often do we do the same things over and over, right? And so I had someone earlier say, well, how do you build this adaptability quotient? And I said, well, we'll talk about it. So I'd like you to think about these three, so IQ, EQ, and the AQ, adaptability quotient, as things we need to balance. So if we have a high IQ and low EQ, we're going to really drive things, but we're going to look at human beings as humans doing, not the human soulful people that we are. And so you have to have a balance of IQ and EQ. Number two, a high EQ, but not a really good AQ. You're going to love your manager or your leader, but you're not going to get a lot done, right? So you have to see that difference there. And then I'm a little bit scared about this one because we're moving so fast. But if you have this adaptability quotient really high and you have low EQ, that's where we're getting into trouble. Ethical things happen, a values conflict. You know, Denise talked a lot about what are the values of the organization. It's the leader's job, it's the organization's job to set those values and to reward or also have consequences for people if they don't follow them. So we know, and these are just points, you know, we're all here at this conference talking about AI, but we know that IQ no longer will be a differentiator for leaders because of all of these things. The pattern recognition, the speed to process, and the prediction of things with accuracy. So gone are the days when we can rely on our IQ as the way that we move forward and we progress as leaders. So we're going to play this video. This video aired during the Super Bowl all over the world, and millions and millions and millions of people saw it, and I'm going to share with you what I think after we play this.
You should do, Stu. Jen Spark, finish this slide deck. Now you're not working from home. Hey, you put on pants. Jen Spark, dial in this spreadsheet.
Done?
Circle back on out of here. Let Jen Spark automate your work and take a day off.
Okay, anyone else get why I might have shown that? I mean, it's a little concerning. Use AI and take a day off of work. You know, just go ahead and just don't even worry about it. An extra day free. And sure, AI can help us do things faster, right? And can automate things. But the mindset of people watching this commercial is scary to me because it basically says you don't have to really work hard anymore, or really think for yourselves. You could just use AI and take your day off, right? And that's what, if leaders actually adopt that kind of behavior, that's when we erode our values and our ability to use AI as it should be, as a partner, but not as a source of truth. I have to say, in my teaching with students on emotional intelligence, they're submitting stuff at the university level with not even checking it. You know, and I'm seeing the words. I'm like, there's no way you could have that word in the paper. You don't even know how to spell it, right? Their vocabularies are so limited, but they're just ripping off things from AI and submitting it. And so now we have guidelines in the university. You have to cite things like we used to when I was a kid, right? And so there's a dark side of AI where people are just taking it as, you know, this is the gospel or this is the truth. And we know that it's not, but it can erode people's critical thinking. So what do we need to do? Well, we can use our minds to make sense of things. Does this make sense? Is this right? Is this wrong? That's the sense making. I think just like prompts, great leaders are going to ask great questions. Just like if you have a really good question in AI, you'll get a really good answer. If you ask your teams and your people really deep, smart questions, you'll get really good answers from them. The ethics and the context, another thing that we can bring that AI can't, right? I knew everybody was tired. I knew everybody was had been sitting for 2.5 hours, so I was like, stand up. I don't think AI would have asked you to stand up, right? And so that's another thing. We can make judgment calls. We can use our IQ and our EQ to make things different and better. All right. You know, one of the things I want to drive home that's really important is, you know, the leader oftentimes is on top, you know, the king or the queen. You know, there's these, you know, views from movies about what a leader is and how they show up, but it's shifting. And so no longer are they going to be the smartest person in the room, but they're going to design really good workflows and really good systems. They don't need to have all the answers, but they need to ask really good questions, right? They don't have to feel like they are the one with all the power. They need to spread that power out and enable others, right? And then, of course, it's enabling people and AI together. So this is a big shift. And I think that, when we saw Lance and Denise talk, it's like the kind of training, the kind of coaching that we can provide leaders will really help them rewire their thinking about how they lead in this new world of work. So, as I said before, change is where we spend a lot of money and we get a lot of failed implementations with our technology, with big transformations, because we're humans, right? And so people can get really nervous and anxious about change. We all do that, right? Because we're creatures of habit. So we can have fear, we can have resistance, we don't know what's going to happen to our roles. And so the role of the leader is to understand all that and build trust and make people feel safe. And so I heard a few of our speakers talk about this, but really the leader sets the tone. So if we're calm, generally the team is calm. So being able to regulate your nervous system, being able to be grounded, and being able to basically point the direction forward is a key strength and skill of a leader in the future. That listening, very important. And then giving people that human, empathetic communication and helping them move through the process, super important. And then just being there, being credible. So no longer can a leader just hide in their office. Leaders actually have to be out and about with their people and interacting. So there's going to actually be less leaders, and the leaders that are really good at EQ are the leaders that are going to have jobs in the future. I see it coming, a reduction of leaders because there's less roles, and the demands of leaders are going to be to have a high IQ but also high EQ. So we know that skills are going down, some things are becoming less relevant. We know that the skills of the future aren't even determined yet. We know that things are just changing so fast. And so learning how to learn and being adaptive and being agile is going to be a key skill. And so we need to get that agility through doing different things. One thing you could do tonight or tomorrow morning is brush your teeth with the other hand. That will actually fire neurons in your body that you haven't fired in a while. So I talked about learning how to learn. I talked about, just because it was something that was successful before doesn't mean it's going to be successful now. So we have to let go of the way that we did things before. We have to be comfortable with not having our ego drive the agenda and really, as they say sometimes in the U.S., your ego is not your amigo. Like, let go of that pride and allow the wisdom of the crowd and the team to shine, and this adapt and be adaptive in this time of change. So we know also that the leaders that will shine, they're going to reward their teams for their success and their learning. They're going to ask their teams to try and fail and iterate, and they're going to design their organizations for that flexibility. And so in the future and now, as we're in this future, that flexibility and that agility is key, and leaders have to show and demonstrate it. So starting to wrap up here, the new leader is going to be integrated in these three areas. So they're going to set the direction with their strategic mind and the context and the values. They're going to use their IQ in those ways. They're going to build trust and build relationships based on the vision, the values, and the strategy. And they're going to spend time with the team. They're going to listen. They're going to ask great questions. And they're going to build that trust to really drive the desire to follow that leader forward. And then they're going to be comfortable with an environment where you can fail fast. You can try different things. We're gonna reward you for learning and adapting. And so those three things are really the integrated leader of the future. And what I would say is in the past, the IQ was really the dominant factor, and now we're asking for a holistic balance of the three. So reflections that I ask leaders as I work with them. One, where am I strong today? In those three. Have I been weighing myself primarily on the IQ? Am I really good at change? Like, where is it that I'm strong and where is it that I need to improve? Am I trying to over-rely on things what made me successful in the past? And what is it that I need to unlearn? These are all good questions as we look at our leadership and how we're showing up. So as we round out here, We want to continue to develop the way that we think. And I think the coaching that Lance was talking about is phenomenal for this on ChatGPT, you know, just to ask that coach, you know, or any of the other Claudes or ones that are out there, you know, just check yourself. Ask questions about it. I had this meeting with my team, and it felt like it didn't go well, and here's what I said, and here's what they said. You know, any reflections for me you can share. So develop your thinking, develop your humanity, and increase your adaptability. Those are the three things that we're saying you should do as you move forward. So that balance, if you think about anything as I wrap up here, it is that balance of IQ, EQ, and AQ. I do want to thank you. I know it was the last session of the day, and if you're interested in the presentation or talking with me, I look forward to being around today and tomorrow. Thank you so much.